So we're not going to hold you any longer. We're going to go ahead and get into tonight's conversation. Miss Charelle, can you let them know what we're going to be talking about on tonight?
Okay, so this evening you guys are in for a treat. We are talking about managing your brand presence and I'll say the common theme or conversation about building a business online.
Mm,
And so we know that that's something that is of interest, and a lot of people tend to have questions aspect on it. But we'll just be providing some perspective as you think about building your respective organization and how you show up, whether it's online or in present or in person. So we're really talking about how to manage an effective, and the key word there is effective brand presence.
well, I think if anybody right now needs to hear that, it's a lot of people just because it's a lot. Social media is changing. A lot of things are just changing, ever changing. And so you want to make sure you're on here tonight to hear how to, she said, effective. That means it's
Mm-hmm.
going how to make it work, how to make it work. So we're going to have a great conversation on tonight. I'm just going to go ahead and jump in with a. I'm going to go ahead and just start an opening question for you on tonight, Miss Charelle. I'm going to ask
Okay.
you, do you think that trends are important for individuals to build a following?
You know, so Kayce, the whole conversation about trends is an interesting one for me because um, the nature of today's audience really feeds on the ability of building a following. Followings, I think, as they translate in business to eventually becoming revenue, great. Depends on the goals of the organization, or depends on the goals of the individual in terms of how they utilize that time that they have the audience's participation or have the audience there. I think it depends. The trend and the way that I particularly view trends depends on the nature of why it was established or formed, where the individual sits in the midst of a trend, whether they're at the lagging end of it, whether they're at a part of the foundational aspect of it. And so I
Mm,
always say, don't get swept up so much in the trend, but if you are going to utilize a trend, utilize it to the aspect of your business or your organization. But I like to take a step back and say, why would you even, why is there the nature of the need to utilize a trend? Where do you see yourself from a purpose perspective? And speak from the aspect of the purpose, being able to then dive into that. And the reason why I say to lead from the aspect of your purpose is because you can always gain a following, but is it the right following of people who are aligned with you for where you see
mm,
yourself going, or where you see your business going in the long term? Because that's really where it matters the most. Otherwise, what happens is we start to get this following, and then we start to do what? A puppet dance to keep the people entertained for the trend, instead of being true to the purpose. It's a fine line there. And I always say, start by leading with the core aspect of your
mm-hmm.
value or your value proposition and why you do what you do, and the right people will find you. So don't get swept up so much with the current, because as it comes, it also will
It
leave.
goes. Yes. Trends. We know trends come and go. Things
Yep.
are here one day, then they're gone the next day. And the hard thing about when you start and you kind of go on a wave of a trend is that once you don't kind of uphold that same image or what people want to see you as, or how you first start, they say you switch up. They're like, you didn't start like that in the beginning, but you're like, no, this was me the whole time. I think about um
Yeah.
I think about the singer, the newer singer. She's under Beyonce. Her name is Chloe Bailey,
Okay. Uh-huh.
and her sister.
I'm
She has a
familiar with her.
sister. Yeah, they were a girl group, and then they branched off into their own things. And then she started coming out, and she started being a little bit more revealing, and she started, having her own. She had her own platform or whatever on her own Instagram, and so a lot of people were like, this is not the same Chloe that we're used to. Used to be so innocent, and with her sister um doing the little songs and covers and stuff like
Mhm.
that. You didn't really see much of them, but then when she started coming out, they were like, who is this person? So,
Yeah.
and then she was saying, well, this was me all along. Y'all just didn't know. But so it's kind of, you know, in that sense is if that was, then you should have been who you were the whole time, you know, type of thing. Being
Yeah.
comfortable with that, if that was who you were. But sometimes people aren't able to accept, you know, when you say this is who I really am versus what you
Mm-hmm.
put, like a mask that you kind of put on social media. And then you kind of come out and show something different. And then you're like, this is who I really am. They're like, we didn't really, we're not feeling
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? If that is truly who she was, what I would commend is for her getting to a place of comfort and being
Mm,
who she genuinely is, because people are going to connect with you based off of, you know, who you are and the aspect of, you know, what's projected out there. Social media to me is it's a great platform of getting information out there. It's a great platform to use when it comes to building your business and things of that nature, and how we utilize it. It's also, you know, you can all people can also put on masks and, like you said, kind of mimic whoever they decide to be. And if we're using it
right.
as a space of personal identification, be authentically you, because that's who people are going
Right.
to, you know, connect with the most.
Right.
That way,
Yes.
but also people changed, right? She could
Yeah.
have been that from the very beginning and evolved to who she is now. I don't know, but I don't know.
Right. Right. Good evening, Miss Lewis. Yes, I definitely think that's another thing too. I've seen a lot of like women. Today is International Women's Day. Hey, shout out to the women.
Happy, yes.
Yes, yes. Just a strong woman. So shout out to y'all on today. But I've seen a lot of women today, instead of posting like their best version of themselves, they're posting like, you know, just everyday wear or waking up in the morning and stuff like that, and being like, you know, showing their authentic self. And so I
Yes.
think that's another thing that we don't understand too, that social media, sometimes we only see the highlight person's best versions of themselves, and not really,
Hmm.
most of the time I seen some celebrities like, I don't look like this all the time. But most of the time when I'm posting, I'm in sweatpants and my hair's not done and I don't have any makeup
Yeah.
on and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So I think too, with the whole social media thing, you know, most of the time we have to remember that these are only the people are only showing glimpse of their life. This is not how most time people, celebrities, even people we see on TV, people we see on the radio, YouTube. That's not how they always are.
Yeah.
And we don't know what's
Hmm.
in. Sometimes it can be so deceiving because you don't know what's real or what's fake. And
Yeah, that's
so
true.
with trends, you just never know. All you know is what you see, type of thing.
Yeah, you know, one of the things I'll say as it relates to social media, which is a good thing that you're saying, which is peel back the layer
The
or the
layers,
onion. And the
yes.
reason, and it's also, I think, a reinforcement for why people should be true to themselves and not try to become what they see or embody on social media, because you don't know what the workings are behind. I can give myself as an example on social media. I mean, social media is 2%. If I were to give you a percentage, it's about 2 to 5% of what I actually do. So what people actually see happening that is going on is really only 2%. I don't, you know, post, you know, a whole lot of personals and the aspect of my son, but just because I'm a mama bear in that regard. But I do, I mean, like I share him on occasion. But there's the aspect or layers of the work that goes into what becomes what people see. And so I think that's a great point, which is, you know, don't look at the totality of what's there and think that that is everything that a person's about, but also don't glorify the images or the glimpses. Get to know the story behind the image or the glimpse.
That's
And I
right.
think that, you know, in doing that, we learn, you know, we can be better prepared for how we engage with people, or how we
Mm-hmm.
engage with our prospects, or how we engage
Mm-hmm.
with one another.
Yes, I also think on the flip side of that, though, when you do see people who are at a place to where they are kind of comfortable with sharing some of their successes, to
Hmm.
celebrate that with persons. I
Hmm.
think sometimes people, you know, we see certain things, and like you said, we don't know person's story. We don't know where they started at versus where they are now. You look at like a Tyler
Hmm.
Perry, you look at like
Yeah.
Steve Harvey, Kevin Hart, all
Yeah.
these different type of persons who are in a light or are in the social media or in the limelight type of thing. we see those persons and where they are now versus sometimes we don't go back and look at person's story, and we get sometimes challenged with persons
Yeah.
sharing certain things or seeing certain things or wishing that we had certain things, but you don't know what a person went through to get where they
Mhm.
are now. You don't know what sacrifices, you don't know what they had to do. So instead of, like I said, instead of wanting something somebody else has or being challenged, being envious of what persons have, celebrate with people and understand that God is not a respecter of persons. So if he did it for another person,
Yeah.
and who's to say God did, that's a whole nother conversation. But if God is not a respecter of persons, so if he did it for somebody else, then he can do it for you. You just have to stay in
Mhm.
the right posture. I was talking about yesterday on my Instagram. I was telling people because I had people see where I am now, which I had lost over 50 pounds now, but I understand about 2 years ago, I was uncomfortable. I was 210
Mhm.
pounds, and they don't understand that I had to go through a whole process in the gym and
Yeah.
eating right and all that to get to where I am now. And people can judge you or make you feel like, why are you so comfortable in your skin or something like that, but you don't understand where I came from. And so I tell
Mhm.
people even now, looking back to think about how I even got to this place, I was like, because I was really questioning myself the other day. I was like, what made me think I could lose 50 pounds? Like, if I went back, I was really thinking, what made me think I could lose 50 pounds? Because I was in the spin place and I was talking to a lady, and she was like, well, talk to me about this because I'm going on this journey. And I was saying, how I told her, how you stand determines what you see. How you stand determines what you
Mhm.
see. You have to be in the right posture to be able to look into
Mhm.
your future and see what it is you desire to do, be,
Mhm.
all those different things. So, like I was bringing it back to what I was saying, understand that where people are now, where you are now, is not where you even used to be, even
Right.
now. But so I just want to encourage you all that life is a journey of faith. So I just wanted
Mhm.
to encourage you right there with that. Um, Miss Charelle, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
So here's my thought, which is, since we're on the topic of trends, what would be an amazing trend to see, an
Mm-hmm.
amazing trend for people to do is pound authenticity and post a
Yes.
picture of your real, not necessarily what you want to project, but what has been the real aspect of who you are, what's been the what is behind the scenes, the work that takes place that no one sees. What
Right.
is the work that's done on your knees? What is the work that's done, when in the late hours of the mornings, or the sweat or the tears? Pound authenticity and make that a trend. Because I feel that, when we talk about the aspect of social media, and I'll get back over to
Mm-hmm.
this next thought that I have. But I feel that there is a real opportunity for us to become or share more aspects of the story behind a picture that becomes a smile or projection, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And there are layers of depth, like you said, the story of Tyler Perry and all of these different people who spent a lot of time, what I call is under the dirt, working on the craft before the craft could be appreciated. Let's make that a trend. The aspect of pound
Yes.
authenticity, or share your story, share the aspect of who you are, because at the end of the day, that's what helps people. It's the ability to connect with those grunt moments, those grit moments, because that's where we
Yes.
find ourselves. And I feel that, the healing which can occur with, getting away from the aspect of trying to portray an image and just being, be comfortable with being who you are, because in the aspect of being, you will allow your light to shine, and you will attract
Yes.
the people who are supposed to be connected to that light to you, as opposed to,
Yes.
projecting. I think that
Yes.
even when people project, if it's not authentic, people will see it and they will feel deceived at some aspect or shape, form, or fashion. So that would be my thought on the whole aspect of trending. Let your authentic light be your trend. Let the authenticity of who you are and God has placed within you, whether it's in business, whether it's from an individual perspective, to shine through. So that would
Yes.
be my thought on it, as
Yes,
well.
ma'am. Transition onto this next question. This kind of piggyback onto the next question that I have is people love stories. People, like you said, people love stories. I was thinking about I watch like a lot of American Idol, The Voice type of shows, and you always see them like going the persons who are going to be on the show, who are going to make it, you always see them go back and tell their story. So you can
Mhm.
fall in love with who they are as a person. You kind of get connected to them in the sense of like you really want them to go through, even if they can't sing. And you know, sometimes they don't make it through, but they still take you through their story and journey. You really want them, you really want it bad for them. So as
Mhm.
another thing with social media marketing, my next question is, do you think that social media marketing is important when it comes to building a business?
Say that one more time. Do I think that social media is important?
Do you think that social media marketing is important when it comes to business?
I really believe that it depends on the organization, and it
Okay.
depends on the goals for how you want to use marketing to enhance your business. Sometimes people use marketing for the aspect of brand awareness, so people know who they are, so that they can establish a position as a subject matter expert in the space or the field that they are in. Some people utilize social media marketing to drive revenue. So I think it depends on the targets, because some of the industries of where your client might be located, they may not be on social media. Some, for
Mm.
example, if you've got a business where you're doing some aspects of manufacturing, maybe construction, some of those in the field businesses or organizations, your clients may not be directly on social media because they're in the field. And so therefore, the aspect of marketing that you might want to do in that space may not be more favorable for you to be on social media. It might be more favorable for you to be in present, or to be personable, or to be attending conventions. So I think that it really depends on the organization, because this is one of the things that I see. A lot of people pour a lot of money into social media, and they're like, okay, I got a lot of clicks and likes, but that didn't translate into revenue. And if, the question then becomes, one, of course, how did you position the organization? Did you speak directly to the need of your client? But then, is your client on social media to begin with? Because that's another trend. We talked about trending in the last one. There's a common trend that says, social media is where I have to be. Is it really, though? And I think that that only comes from really understanding your business, the industry, and the nature of where your clients are located, so that you don't run into, the frustration of, I feel like of leaning into the pressures of having to make sure that you have social media. I think that in marketing in general, if we take a step back, marketing is comprised of more than just social media. There's digital marketing, there's in person, there's door to door, there's so many different aspects. There's brand voice and brand strategy, and all of those things should be taken into consideration when you decide on what the right strategy is for your organization. If you're someone that, you've got a book, you've got some, you're looking to gain the common interest of people, Facebook makes sense. Instagram makes sense for that regard. If you're a professional, you've got some kind of professional services, you might want to lean into LinkedIn, right? So you have to understand the industry of where your clients are, so that you can properly organize yourself against it, or organize yourself with it. So going back to your
Wow.
original question, Kayce, it really just depends on the industry. Yeah.
Wow, I think that is a great answer, just because nowadays a lot of people do invest so much money when it relates to social media and feeling
Mhm.
like, well, this is what everybody's doing right now. And this is kind of like what they feel like they have to do to stay relevant, or even, but not understanding that being different in the sense of not more so focusing on social media, and maybe saying, hey, well, this month we're going to focus on word of mouth. We're going to focus on the clients that we have, and taking those clients and telling them, hey, what do you like, what you don't like, how can we get you to tell your friends, how can we
Yeah.
get you, because I feel like, to me, that's more so that's another great way when it comes to marketing, is having people who already trust you to tell other persons, because when somebody trusts
Mhm.
you, they're giving you their word to somebody else, then it's just like, you know, there's more credibility. But I've never thought about it in a sense of like, maybe social media marketing isn't for certain persons, just because everybody does it now. Always see marketing, when even on YouTube, Instagram, we always see some sort of marketing. But it goes back to being intentional and really knowing your audience and taking time to think. And if I know they always say build a avatar. If you had to build out an avatar and say what your client looks like, their age, their height, what they like to do on a day-to-day basis, stuff like that. So if you really lean into that and you kind of figure out what that looks like for you and what you're trying to do, then you might find out that social media marketing isn't necessary for the person you're going after. If you're going after a certain clientele, maybe you get more involved in the community and you start to network, and then you start doing it that way. So there's so many different ways to network and market yourself. I see a lot of people who miss opportunities in a sense of networking, since you're so focused on being on a computer, being on the phone, and not actually going out and putting a face to a name, or letting people see your face. You miss the opportunities. I know it's a lot of people. I watched Dame Dash the other day talking about, he even still to this day still goes to networking. They call it social hours, and you know how they do certain things, right? He still has to go out and network and connect with certain people, and he's already at a certain level and he's been in the game, but he's still having to do those things. And those things are things you're going to have to do to sustain your business and market yourself and be able to still make those connections, and for persons to know and put a face to a name and stuff like that. So I think that's a great answer, because I think we miss that now because of the trends.
Right, exactly. And it's not always a matter of, like you said, doing what everyone else is doing. It's what's right for you, what's right for your organization, what's right for the client base that you're seeking to attract to your business. And you got to go where they are, not necessarily where you want to be, but go exactly where they are, and be able to shape or make a presence and show up as a subject matter expert in that respective space. Because it may not be social media, it might be door to door. It may be the aspect of being present in conferences, or being or showing up as, like I said, a subject matter expert, trade expert. But unless you take the time to really understand the client and the industry of which you're in, you may just, fall into the loop of feeling that social media is the answer. And I run into a lot of business owners that get really frustrated with, hey, I invested all this money into all these ads and I haven't seen a return on my investment. And they're pumping money into a resource or a tool without fully understanding, well, that may not be where your market is congregating, or you might be able to find them there, but they can't find you, or they only leverage it as a source of information and not as revenue exchange. And you want, depending on what the goals are of the business, if your goal is to have marketing that translates to revenue exchange, then knowing exactly where those exchanges take place make the most difference. Because, again, social media might give you the access, but your handshake might actually happen by you doing a course that then creates more awareness for your audience, instead of just focusing on social media. Or you might have to do, instead of doing a business to consumer, which is kind of like in many aspects of social media, your client might be another business that may not be on social media. And therefore they might have the net of fish that occur for your audience. And you need to be, and instead of focusing on the consumer, you need to be focused on how do I create more relationships that already have the relationships to the consumer. So without doing the work or really understanding that, sometimes we might get frustrated feeling that social media is the answer and not seeing the results.
Exactly. I think sometimes we also, when you said that, is sometimes we don't think that big. Why does it have to be consumer to business to consumer versus business to business? You know, sometimes we think so small, but even now with so many different, we were talking about this yesterday, we were on the phone, so many different types of businesses that are the same, how to find what makes you different within what you do.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot of different people doing the same thing. I see a lot of young people, a lot of young girls who do lashes, lip gloss, you know, hair extensions, stuff like that, or you know, they're selling just different things, but a lot of them are the same things. There's nothing wrong with having your own and it being the same, because it's a lot of different, you know, has we have a lot of different fast foods and we have a lot of different hair brands, but you also want to make sure you're intentional about what makes you different in that
Right.
industry. And so whether you're thinking, because it will not thinking outside the box, because if you're thinking outside the box, you're already in a box. So thinking bigger than a box,
Mm-hmm.
thinking bigger, thinking, you know, the sky is never the limit. So you should always
Mm-hmm.
think over and above in how you can be different. What makes you different? What's your niche? Why would people pick you versus another product or
Mm-hmm.
brand? What makes you different? What experience, what luxury, or what type of like I said, experience you want people to have when they have your product or service. So
Yeah.
I think that's a really good thing, and that also, when you were talking about how you might be, well, you might be in your customer's face, but your customer cannot see you or find you. I
Mm-hmm.
was thinking about, it's a lot of different people now on social media who are very loud. People who are very loud but don't really have the tools it takes to sustain or really give you what you're looking for. A lot of people on social media are pointing out where you're wrong or showing you yeah, you're going wrong in this area, but not teaching you and walking you through how to actually get to what it is that you desire to do. So I wanted to ask you, Miss Charelle, do you think influencers should be vetted? And how can
Mm-hmm.
people vet these persons who they are seeing on social media? Because there's so many different people who are saying, I can help you do this, I can teach you to do this, I can be your coach, I can guide you, but really are only
Mm-hmm.
showing you, they want to show you your blind spots, but you still trying to get over in the lane and you get hit because they're only show that,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, yeah, there's a car coming, but they're not showing you how close the car is. They just telling you. Then you go ahead and you get in another lane and you get hit still. So
Yeah.
how do you really vet these persons who are saying they can help you?
I think that, well, one, definitely, I think influencers, especially if they have your ear, should be vetted, because anyone that has your ear obviously has the ability to influence you, or influence you to buy, make some type of decision, etc. And I think that in today's space, the aspect of coach is so broad that anyone can say that they're a coach in a respective space, service, or area. I would say go beyond the layers, go beyond the pictures that you see, go beyond that, have conversation, do the depth, look at some business, better business bureaus. What are people saying about the organization? What does the fruit and the track record show? And does it match the pictures? And not to get so caught up on just the pictures. Even in, we talked about marketing earlier. You can create a bunch of pretty pictures, but if the goal is to drive revenue and to drive sales to the business, but the pictures don't tell your consumer that they should purchase your product, you miss the opportunity. But the person can say and show that they are skilled in the area of creating pretty pictures. So what is important for you? And do have you asked the right questions to get below the surface so that you can truly understand if the services that are provided will actually be helpful and beneficial for you and your business. And if for whatever reason you just like what they do, there's nothing wrong with following and continuing to just support someone else's craft. Nothing absolutely wrong, with that in that regard. I would also say, but just, I'm big on make sure that it aligns with the aspect of who you are as a person, where you see yourself going in life, because ultimately that becomes a part of the subconscious that you take in, whether it's business, or it's personal. So I absolutely believe that, influencers, if they're going to have your ear, should be vetted to some respect. What was it that gave them the platform that they have? What is it about their platform that inspires you or invokes something within you that would want you to follow them or emulate, if that's the reason why you're looking at that particular influencer? And then what is simply, when you look at the fruit of what has been done, what does the fruit say? I would even go even one step or layer beyond that to say, who is in their ear, right? Who are the people that is inspirational, that they are inspired by, that then becomes an aspect or a view of what they project in social media. So I have to be really, really careful about, who's in your ear and who's in the ear of those that are
Yes.
in your
Yes,
ear.
ma'am.
Because
Yes,
I think that
ma'am.
that is so important as well.
I say be very, 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 very discerning. Be very
Yeah.
discerning about when you are connecting with people. I say when people tell me they got scammed or something like that because they got one of these online coaches, I'm like, you didn't ask all the right questions, because typically you will know if somebody knows what they're talking about. You just have to ask the
Mm-hmm.
right questions and not be so giddy about them just talking to you. No, you have
Right.
to ask the right questions, do your research, and fact check them on a lot of different things. And there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. There's nothing. And if they get mad at you asking questions, then that's their problem,
Yeah.
because
And that's a
um
clear sign. Yeah.
right, that's a red flag. We talk about red flags on
Mm-hmm.
social media. That's a red flag. And persons get uncomfortable with you not questioning them, but just asking questions, just a general question about the different things that they offer. And every coach has a coach. So if you see persons saying that they don't have a coach or have a mentor or somebody who's at least guiding them, and you go back and fact check that person, that says a lot too, because every coach has to be coached. You cannot be led by somebody who's not able to sit under somebody and be led themselves. So
That's
they
right.
have to go back and fact check those people. And also, you are able to tell a lot. I'm able to tell a lot because, listen, I be on. If I'm going to connect with a person, if I'm going to listen to a person, because Apostle said, whoever has your ear will determine your year. Whoever has your ear will determine your year. I go back and look at persons who they hang around and the company they keep as
Right.
well. If they're
Yep.
saying they do so and so, and I'm out here doing this, but you also see them hanging out and doing certain things, this is like, is that really where you see? And you have to kind of put it in like do I see myself actually doing this, or can I see myself hanging out with this person and being comfortable
Right.
in even spaces that they go into? And that's the thing with
Mm-hmm.
a lot of different people on social media now. They portray one role on social media, and then you kind of see a whole different, it's like night and day. So you see them doing
Mm-hmm.
this in business meetings, sitting in certain rooms with executives or however they're trying to portray it. But then it's like, did you just code switch? Like, what just happened? What just happened? It
Yeah.
has to be consistent all the way around, especially if you're
It
saying you
does.
want to listen to this person or you feel like you want this person to lead and guide you. It has to be consistent. For me, it has to be consistent.
No, you're
If that's how,
absolutely
right,
right.
if you're hold yourself to this standard, because I think it's also a standard. If you hold yourself to a certain standard, then that standard has to remain consistent. It can't come down
Mm-hmm.
just because you want to go, I'm just saying, to the club. For me, 30 something at the, I just can't. But if you are, it has to be consistent for me. So if you have to hold yourself to a certain standard and be okay with holding yourself to that standard, especially if I'm going to listen to you, and
Yeah.
you kind of lead me. So that's what I would just have to say about that.
And I feel like a projection should amplify what is already there. And so what is already within you, that's there, not the aspect of creating a fictitious persona, but the aspect of just who you are and being able to radiate that, going back to radiating that light from within. And so what people see, to your point, there should be some level of continuity or consistency between, what you say and what you see, whether lights are on, cameras are on or not. There should still be the aspect of consistency.
Definitely, definitely. Because I be looking at some stuff. I be like, what? What? Some people I really genuinely be like, I really wish I could sometimes be like, get with that, but then you just see something else and be like, ah, there's another
Nope.
sign. Nope, can't do it. Can't do it, because you also
Mm-hmm.
have to hold yourself to a certain standard and be like, can I do it if because when you have a relationship, it's either the person changes you or you change them. And so if you are in a situation to where you're being led, that person has a certain type of influence over you. Now you govern yourselves accordingly of how you do what you do. But I'm saying
Mm-hmm.
everybody has to figure out what that standard is for them. And
Yep.
so if you are being led, that person does have a certain type of influence or certain type of influence over you. So you have to be kind of you have to, well, not kind of, you have to discern whether that influence is going to be a good one or a bad one. So
Yep. Exactly.
I will
And know when, if you are going off track, how to redirect yourself and
mhm.
know how to, like you said, how to adhere to and listen to the red flags if you see them or if they pop up, and not just continue to barrel through them, but to recognize that if you're getting a tug, that you owe it to yourself to question or challenge what is the feeling or why you're feeling the way that you do.
Yes, because even persons, I would just want to encourage persons too. If you're even in a coaching, mentoring, or you're connected with persons, even like I said, this stuff is life stuff too. Even if you're in friendships or relationships that you are having to question a lot of different things, it's okay to address those different things to a person and ask questions and have an open and honest conversation. Because I think too, even when you have coaches, mentors, or your relationships, friendships, you should be able to come to a person and say, hey, this is kind of where I am. This is what I'm feeling. Let's talk through this. And even in after that conversation, because too, I feel like the Bible says, get in all thy get understanding. After you get understanding, after you're able to discern or temperature check where a person is, then you have to move accordingly. Whether you just misunderstood something, whether something just wasn't communicated correctly to you, or you just had a bad feeling about something and you just needed to talk about it. But whether you get, like I said, negative or positive, however you feel about that, then you should be able to move accordingly. There's nothing wrong with being in a situation and you feeling like you judged it well in the beginning, and then you kind of start to pull back and stop like, maybe I didn't judge this correctly. There's nothing wrong with pulling back.
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with distancing yourself. There's nothing wrong with saying maybe this is just not for me right now, type of thing.
Yeah, and sometimes I truly believe that God plants seeds, and knowing where we are in the season or in the process of the cultivation of that seed is important. He definitely says test and see, or check and see. Check, you'll know my sheep based on the fruit that they produce.
That's
Look at the
right.
fruit. Start by looking at the fruit of what's there. What is the physical output and the example of what is being said is within? And does that align with the actions or the person, etc.? I think that those aspects are very important. But then also keeping an open mind, right? We're still very much vessels that learn along the way, and making sure that we remain open and receptive to the ability to learn, shift and change our perception or perspective where it's necessary is also
Mm-hmm.
important. But based on the catalyst of what does the fruit say, and what does the
Mm-hmm.
fruit embody, and is it rotten fruit or is it good and edifying unto the spirit? Because those things are very much important. And I would go a step further to say, even as companies or organizations establish their business, ask yourself, what is my fruit? And what is the fruit that I have to offer someone else or another organization from whether it be from a marketing perspective? Marketing simply conveys or communicates the aspect of what the value is that is already there. So the question then becomes, what is the value that I have, or what is the value that my organization brings? Because everything else is amplification of what is already there. And if it's hard for you to identify your fruit, then imagine someone who does not know you, or
Mm.
someone who is not a part of your organization trying to identify that fruit. And they're trying to identify it if it's on the nature of the projection. So, radiate from a space of being or sharing your authentic truth. I'm really, really big on sharing your story. People connect with, they want to have that human emotion. They want to connect with the person. And because they can do business with everyone. They could do business with anyone, like you said, that has the same service, that are in different subsets, but what sets you apart? What is your niche? How do you make them feel? How do they engage with who you are as a person and the human aspect of it? And from there, begin to then think through, okay, well, what is the brand proposition and how do I situate myself in the particular industry so that I can add value where I bloom. I'm big on, you don't have to do business with every single one. So you don't have to become morph into many different things where you lose sight of what the core value is of your organization. Identify with who you are, be true to who you are, and know that the right people who are supposed to connect with you in business will find you. They will connect with your story. They will connect with your product. And it won't have to take a whole lot of convincing for them to identify with you. So I think that holds true even in social media. Instead of trying to be a chameleon and fall into the line of whatever is current in the moment, be your authentic self and be your authentic truth. And then the right people will be drawn to that.
Let's give her some hand claps for that one. Yes, especially like you said, and not everybody's your customer. Not everybody is your customer. And you also do have to understand there is a beauty in knowing that not everybody's for you. And that's okay. Not everybody's for you. But I really like what you said when you said sometimes you have to look at yourself and see, well, what do I bring to the table? Sometimes we often just put it off on persons and say, well, it's them. We point the finger or saying it's them. It's not me. That's why I had like a epiphany moment probably about maybe a year ago. I'm like, because I was big on be like, oh no, I'm quick, like with friendships or anything. I'm just quick to cut anybody off. Like, I don't have to deal with it. Yeah, it's not my problem. It is what it is. And I'm quick to call. I was quick to be like, no, that's just toxic. They're toxic. I would just use that word all the time. And God had to really check me like, no, what if you're toxic? What if you're the problem? So I think it's good that we have those moments to be like, well, even in business, why is this not working? What's not clicking? What am I not doing right to make this click? It's not persons, because it's millions of people. Somebody has to be for you, but if it's not clicking with only a certain people or people that you don't even want to attract, they say the energy that you put out is what you're going to get.
What you get back.
And so if you're not putting out the frequency and the energy that you want to get back, then you have to see, well, what am I really putting out? And what am I really putting out to make the persons that not necessarily I want to be my customers? And there's nothing wrong with that. If you want a certain type of clientele, then that's up to you. But if you're putting out a certain energy and attracting a certain type of clientele or persons, then you have to go back to the drawing board and see like what are you putting out to attract that type of thing. So
to thine own self be true.
Yes, to thy own self be true. So I want to pause right here and say thank you all for liking, inviting, and sharing. If you're just now getting on, we have been talking about so much. You're just having a conversation tonight, really. We're just talking, and we're talking about brand presence and stuff like that. So if you're just now getting on, make sure to like, invite, and share. Make sure to like, invite, and share. I want to pause right now and see if anybody has any questions. If anybody has any questions, Miss Charelle is amazing, and I want to make sure you're able to ask her any questions tonight. If you're on the lifeline, you can text 615-624-1327 615-624-1327, and you can text me your questions. If you're on Facebook, YouTube, just drop your comment down below and I will read them for Miss Charelle. Any comments that you have, any questions that you have, go ahead and drop them down below. We're getting ready to wrap it on tonight. So I just want to make sure you are able to ask any type of questions you have before we get off of here. Let me, okay, so I do have one question. So I did have somebody ask while we were on here, which we were going to talk about anyway, how important brand credibility is.
Hmm. I think that, one of the harder things to recover from is a brand once it's been tainted, right? So one of the things that I'm big on is yes, you want to protect your brand and like your name, right? One thing that you have is your name, it's your credibility. It is the aspect of whether you're dependable, reliable, consistent, you deliver, etc. You can recover from it. It's just difficult to do so. So be sure that you want to protect that brand and recognize that it is important to the aspect of business. Have I seen businesses close one organization, rebrand, rename? Absolutely. That happens all the time where people are able to do so. When you think about some of the longer standing brands, you can think of, whether it be a Nike with the swoosh, and you've got McDonald's or things of that nature, because they have spent a lot of time really working on the brand. Or Chick-fil-A, right? Chick-fil-A is a good modern example of their brand. When you think of Chick-fil-A, people usually think about the customer service. They think about how they feel. They have put in time. Chick-fil-A has put in time to work on carving and cultivating a brand that becomes memorable to the core values of the company or the organization. In the same respect, when it comes to building your organization or your business, think about that brand credibility and memorability, or how what you want to be remembered for. What do you want people to feel, think, see, envision when they connect with you or when they connect with your brand? We are in the day and age where everyone looks at a review before they purchase a product, right? So know that in the same respect, when it comes to your business or you, people are going to do their fact checking. They are wanting to make sure that what is presented is truly what is being delivered. And in the same respect, you want to protect that brand credibility and work towards making sure that whatever your value promise is, that you deliver on that, because that is an important aspect of doing business. Being credible and in your word or what you hold true as that promise is important, because guess what? If people don't like it, somebody's going to write a review about it, right? That's kind of the day and age that we're in. So you want to make sure that you hold true to that. Now, the other side of that question is, if I get, bad press, or I'm a new business, I start up too fast and I can't keep up, and now I've got all this bad press, what do I do? You can absolutely recover from it. Just recognize that sometimes those things take time to be able to do so. So scale slow, right? You can, if you don't have the infrastructure to support the demand, focus on building the infrastructure so that when you unlock capacity or when you turn on the demand, that you have the ability to service your clients. You owe it at least to yourself, your business, as well as your constituents, to be able to deliver on the brand promise. So the credibility of the brand is very important to your business or your organization, and just making sure that you protect it like you would protect your name is important.
Yes, man. I think that sums it up beautifully. I think also you have to also be aware of when you just kind of see somebody hating in the comments. Some people just literally, I see now, because I was actually talking to a travel agent the other day, and I was like, well, I seen the bad reviews on this one place. What you think? And she was like, you kind of just have to weed it out, just because sometimes not everything is for everybody. And so they get
Yeah.
there and they realize maybe um a 3-star wasn't good enough for them. They used to a 4-star. So you just kind of have to be kind of
That's a good point.
aware of what
Yeah.
persons are saying and kind of weed out, okay, and discern to, like, okay, this person being honest, or are they just being a hater, or some people just don't want to see people win. Some people just don't want to see people win. I see a lot of celebrities too who go through a lot of cyberbullying and people saying all
Mm-hmm.
different things about them. And so if you know somebody doesn't have this track record, then you kind of see some person saying some things, nitpicking with them. Maybe a person had a moment. I'm big on that with going to like restaurants or something like that, and you have a bad
Yes,
service.
that's a good
Maybe
point.
somebody is
Mm-hmm.
just having a moment, and you have to
Yeah.
know when, like, maybe this person just had a really bad day, and be
Mm-hmm.
okay with being the light that day. So I would just say it's always two sides, but like I said, that's why it's important to discern. I know people people sometimes say feel energy and stuff like that. Well, maybe your energy's off. So I won't say feel energies and stuff like that. I would just say discern when you'll know if somebody's just having a really bad day. You know, maybe
Don't look
somebody.
at just one. Don't look at just the one comment. What is the, I'll say even the consensus of it. But to your point, it's not all, it could be just that too, and I can think of a very real example so I can identify with that.
Yes. Well, I think our time has been really well spent on tonight. It's been really well. Thank you so much, Miss Charelle, as always, for joining us. Can you please tell persons how they can connect with you?
Yes, absolutely. You can feel free to reach me on my website, www.visionstrategymanagement.com. So that's visionstrategymanagement.com. You can feel free to click on that, contact us, click on discover. Happy to have a member of my team or myself connect with you to assess and help you deliver on your business promise or your business values for your organization. You can also reach me at www.charellelands.com. If you Google me anywhere on social media, I'm sure my name will come up. You can find me there as well on the internet. So at Charelle Lands, we try to keep it very simple on any and most platforms as well. I'm just so excited to be here again. Thank you, Apostle Kayce. It's been a fun night talking about just brand and online and the ability to just have a conversation about how to manage ourselves while we are on a social media platform.
Yes,